What's up, everybody? Ty Bartell in with another edition of Coach's Corner. This time we head to our friends down the road at JFK, Warren JFK, home of the Eagles. Girls basketball coach Marc Morgan joining me today. Coach, what's up, man? How we doing?
Oh, we're doing pretty well. Ty, thanks for having me.
Well,
Always willing to talk about my team.
yeah, well, thank you for joining us and doing just that today, Coach. And I'm excited to talk about this team. I know you guys had some key injuries happen last season, but I felt like a lot of girls grew in that time frame. And I feel like with what you guys got coming back, there's a lot of excitement surrounding this team. Talk to me about your excitement surrounding this team. Talk to me about how last year's ending kind of is fueling this year's team start.
So obviously the expectation level is the ceiling. After winning a district title, I mean, now it's what we have to set the standard. Anything besides that is unacceptable. And so I think that with some of the off-season workouts that some of our girls have done, bringing in NST for training, trying to prevent some of those injuries from happening, like Shane and his crew have done an outstanding job with our girls. That to me is almost the most important thing for us to do, is to make sure that we're healthy. We don't have a huge roster and our schedule is very rigorous. And so being able to withstand that schedule and get to the tournament at optimal levels is my key thing to do this year. So performance-wise, I mean, as far as players go and personnel, I think that we are figuring each other out. We obviously had to change circumstances midway through our season, and we went through some downtimes and put it together for a tournament run. Now regrouping with, getting our point guard back and people getting better and improving and maturing game-wise. I think that alone sets the table for us to be in a pretty good position. But again, as I'm going to reiterate this, healthy is key.
Yeah, we know that too, and there's a number of things that can happen in any given basketball season, and we've seen it too. It's a long season and a lot of wild cards that are always in play. It feels like, Coach. I don't want to go too far without letting you introduce your team, though. Shout out those names. Shout out those big impact names that are going to be out there on the floor for you this year.
So Gianna Pompiglia, obviously coming back off a crazy district championship game, just signed a letter of intent for Wheeling University Division II basketball school. Huge accomplishment for our program and for her. I mean, just to have a kid in your program that gets a scholarship to a Division II university says a lot about what we do. And you would think that, our kid in that situation maybe would cut back on what she does every day. I have never seen a kid work like this. I don't know what I'm going to do when she doesn't play for me anymore. Like, I've coached her since she was in 8th grade, which is kind of a weird scenario and how it all happened. But she has, and when you'll see her, when the next time you do a game and you see the stature, the difference in the kid, the weight training, the constant work at the game, she's so dynamic right now. It's hard for me to say what ceiling she has. Like, she's that kind of player. She's much improved from the kid that scored 43. I think she's 30% better than she was when she scored 43, and maybe more than that. Yeah, her improvement, her commitment is like no other kid. I have never seen anything like it. And, her getting just recently signing that letter of intent to go to Wheeling just proves it, and she's the key, just making sure that she is full go and getting after it every day. She makes that engine run. Hannah Myers, who is another senior of mine, is so vital to what we do. I kind of call her the Al Horford of our team. She does those little things that you don't ever really see in the scoreboard, or you don't see in the scorebook. She just does all that little stuff. She takes care of the group. She rebounds, she shoots, she steals the ball, she reads on defense. She's so important to what we do. Maybe she doesn't put up 20 points, but the things she brings to our team, it's untouchable. Like, those intangibles that she gives us is so helpful and just gets us to that next level, especially when we're pressuring somebody. And the panic that we try to ensue for teams, like her ability to read those things and have to rebound and do all that, it makes it so much easier when she's on the floor for us to run. Obviously, and then Dee Ryan, getting her back, time will tell. Are there going to be ups and downs? Yes. And I've tried to reiterate this to her too. You are not the player you were in January of 25. Like, you are a new player and you have to live with the way the things are progressing. There are going to be days that you are frustrated and there'll be days that you're elated. Like yesterday in practice, she was absolutely on fire. And it had been the first time I'd seen her since she'd been back play like that. And that's how it's going to be. Like, today could be a completely different day. And so that level of frustration with her. Are we still there, Ty?
Yeah, we're here. Just pick
Sorry,
it up.
cut
We're
out.
there, Coach. Yeah, we could cut that out. Just go and pick it up where you left off.
Okay. Anyway, so in that recovery part, she just has to be patient with it. My goal for her was to be in January somewhere close to where she was last January. I'm not saying that she has to be at that exact thing, but if she can get there to get us for January and February and make that run, then ideally where I wanted her to be. Like, I am not playing her full quarters and scrimmages. I'm cutting her time. We're building her up. This is not, hey, you got to be on the floor and you have to play all the time, like every minute that we're on the floor. Like, she needs to be able to work through this and have some patience with it. I mean, because we do have other kids that can play. That's one thing that, the positive that came out when she got injured is everybody else had to pick it up a little bit. So they know how to play when she's not on the floor. And that's figuring that out has been part of the gamut here of trying to, okay, now we have her back. So how do we get yourself integrated back into that system when it used to run, everything used to run through you? And so we've had some ups and downs with that. And that's part of the process. That's why I do it. So these kids can figure things out and we become better each day, and so her figuring the patience part is going to be key for her. Lainey Condolian, it's our IQ player. Like, she sometimes sees things before I see them. Like, she's a coach's kid, and she's a coach's kid. She's our translator. I say things in the huddle. She ends up telling players what I want them to do. Like, that's the kid she is. You can't replace a kid like that. That's just the ability, that intellect on the floor. Like, she's always in the right spot. Very, very rarely do I have to say, hey, Lenny, can you do this? Or you're not here on this. She just knows where to be, and that's part of that whole thing of having those kids that do different things for your team, which makes us better. And she's shooting it so well right now. Like, I thought she definitely has improved so much in the shooting part of it. Like, scrimmages, she's just knocking down way more shots. It's just putting in that time, like those summer workouts, her third year of the summer, getting after it, the conditioning of soccer and coming into basketball, it just is transpired and she's just improved dramatically, and then that's the four main key things. We have other kids that are good too. Like, we have some incoming freshmen that are really good. Like, Claire Phillips has shown tremendous growth in this preseason. And Sophia and Olivia Tilley, same thing. They've had tremendous growth, but also the kids that were here last year, my fifth starter, my sixth and seventh man, Kylie Marlette, Riley Lawrence, Celia LaFleur, those kids have all gotten better, and which makes us better, and I think that practices sometimes are tougher than scrimmages and games for us. Because when I mix those lineups up, I never know who's going to win the battle each day.
I like the way, and I enjoy the way you talk about your kids, because you talk about them on I feel like, deeper level than just basketball too. And I could really tell how much you do care. How do you measure growth in players beyond the stats, beyond what you can see in a box score? What are your other big measuring points of growth that you try to look for in players over time?
Really, it comes down to IQ. And now we're in the third year. So now this is, sometimes I want more input from them. Like, if I'm trying to make an adjustment at practice, like, hey, I want to try to work this in, I ask what they see. Like, does this work? Does it not work? Like, this game is eclectic. Like, it's ever changing. So one time this works against this team, it might not work against the other. And I'm open to that. And I told Hannah Myers this before, like, the more that we engage in those conversations, the more that I think that you have developed and progressed in the game. So I advocate for them to do those things. Like that's the part that I try to measure, especially with freshmen, like, are they progressing as far as understanding what to do? Not necessarily being able to score or get rebounds, the other parts of the game, the mental part, can they work themselves in? Like I've told our freshmen, like, I'm not going to just throw you to the wolves. Like you have 5 or 6 kids that have been in a regional. Like you're freshmen that played 8th grade basketball last year. My expectation is not for you to be a regional level player to start your freshman season, but you battle every day with these kids. So eventually you will be, of course.
But you coach, you talk about the experience that a lot of these girls have been able to gain, and that obviously is gonna help with this season as well. But I feel like it's also the belief that you've been able to get amongst these girls that kind of all rally for the same purpose. I was able to talk with a couple of your girls too, and it was great conversations too, and they really spoke so highly of the program and what it meant to take care of the program too before they graduate for the next generation, for the next group of players too. How do you build that belief in a team? What's the key? What's the secrets to get that buy-in from the girls?
Obviously, yeah, getting them together in other atmospheres, like especially with the weight training part. Like I really think that breeds that together part. Like our middle school or like kids will lift with our high school kids. Obviously can't practice together, but the weight training part is part of the program, and so they get integrated and mixed in. And in the summertime, I do that too. I try to make sure that there's no gap between my 8th graders and my freshmen. Like I want to make sure that those kids are comfortable in the program, and then our seniors ultimately take care of that on the floor during practices. Like they set the bar for those kids so they can see, and every senior has done a little better with it. Honestly, my 3rd year here, like this, every group has pushed the envelope for that next class to get a little better. And I think that's part of the process. Like why we can probably stay on top is because our kids each year, our leaders push the kids that are younger to do more, maybe more than they think they can do.
I think another reason you guys stay on top too is because you guys are not afraid to back down from anyone on that schedule. You guys bolster it, and you are well prepared every time tournament time rolls around. Talk to me about some highlights on the schedule this season and who you're excited to try to test these girls against.
Yeah, this schedule is pretty difficult. Our December is rougher than I can ever remember. And I obviously not being in a league now, that changed the gamut for what we had to be able to do. We are, you lose some of those games. Now we are playing some of those teams still, but there's not like the guaranteed games. So we had to go out and find some teams. We're playing Gilmore Academy, second game. We're playing Laurel. Like these are all perennial D3, D2 teams that win, not teams that just exist. Like these teams actually make runs every year. And so we're playing against some of those teams. I mean, Boardman, you're just playing against a powerful schedule. That's just December. I was looking at the schedule going, if we can get through December, I'll be happy. If we were 500 in December, I would be happy with it.
We talk about every coach has a different, I feel like, taste for basketball and how they like the game played, how they perceive good basketball. And I love it because there's more than one ways to get it done in this sport. When you envision great basketball, what does it look like to you?
So I've always been a tempo guy. I've always thought whether or not the team we were playing was as good as us, that we would outlast them in 32 minutes. So, I mean, do we try to set that for each game? For sure. Does that mean that we always play that way? No, because not having 20 or 30 20 kids to pick from, you have to watch that minutes wise. I mean, how much do you press? How much do you run your kids down, especially with our schedule? If we had games that I knew were walks basically, then you can kind of push kids in one game and then back it off for the next and work different rotations. But when you're up against it every game, it's tough to do. So you've got to have that mindset. Like I can't always do what I want. Sometimes it's what's best for us at the moment. And that's the difference with me and probably my growth in coaching. Is when I was a younger coach, it was we're running no matter what, and we're running for 32 minutes. And I would condition my kids in that sense, like that's all we're going to do. Now it's more of, hey, we have to figure out what we need to do, pressed in moments, do different things to change the tempo in certain situations, but not the whole time. And I think that our kids understand that too, switching defenses without telling them, like in a huddle, we're going to do 3 different things. On makes, we're going to do this. On misses, we're going to do this. On side of the bounds, we're going to do this. Underneath, we're going to do this. And them being able to grasp that and work to do that. I think being able to change on a fly like that makes you that much harder to play and beat. And I'm hoping that evolution for us from last year to this year and being able to do those things gets us very close to some of those good teams we're going to play.
You mentioned the good teams you're going to play to. I feel like you've gotten an eye for what those good teams look like too. What's the difference between good teams and great teams in your opinion?
The little things. Do you box out? Do you close out? Does your defense demand stopping the ball? That type of thing. Do you put pressure on people consistently? Like when kids have the opportunity to make decisions when they're playing, then it makes it an easier game for them. When you take that away from teams, when you try to make it a pressure situation every possession, then it shortens the amount of possessions they get, or it makes them take quicker shots. Often I speak of that. When we're in press, it isn't about the turnover. It's about taking the shot under duress. How often do teams practice 2 passes, 15-foot jump shots? Like, you just don't do that. They work it in their offense. But as a press breaker, you don't often work that in. So, my plan is always to be in that. Like, we do work on those things. So I want to be in that kind of a running game where we're trading shots, because I think in 32 minutes, we'll score more than you will. And ultimately, that's my goal. Now obviously there has to be some other stops in between there, but someone gets hot. Lutheran East last year scores 98 points. It was 50-40 at half. Yeah, we played the game, but so did they. You get into those situations. Well, now we got to hunker down and play some defense, and we're going to try to keep ourselves in this. So there are situations that demand other types of play, but just keeping people above the pace they want to play is really my primary goal most of the time.
Coach, I like how you talked about adapting, with the times as a coach too, and you're always looking to adapt, always looking to change what you feel is necessary. But what is that one thing, or what is that, I guess, one part of your culture or one trait of you as a coach that you refuse to move on? What's always going to be a trait of your teams that you feel?
I mean, it's just like I said, it's pace. Like, I don't want us to slow it down. Like, teams make shots. That's part of the game. You can't just dwell on that last play. And so being able to push the ball and keep the pace going, even in times when we're not making shots, and trying to find that quick, easy one to get us back on a run. Yeah, that's the non-negotiable for me. Don't slow it down to run offense. If we can find a way to score without setting up, that was always going to be my primary goal. But your kids have to know how to play in order to do that. You can't just send people on a mission without teaching them how to play that way. And so we work on that every day. Whether they think they are or not, we do. And so them now, with the experience of doing it for a couple of years now, it should work itself out, hopefully.
I love the passion you speak with too, and just in the relationship with the players and just being able to be their coach. What's your favorite part of practice when you're able to get them all together?
I like the battle. Yesterday, my assistant coach, Eric Marino, said, this is probably one of the best practices we had this year, because I pit them against each other. Sometimes, like I said this earlier, our practices are harder than games, because it's such a battle between all of them, and that's what I've told them before. Like, I want to see that every day. It's a Gino Ariema thing. His kids have always said that, like, I'd rather go play games than practice with this guy, because they're so much harder. And I try to set the same standard for our kids. Like, I want those battles every single day, so that you are ready, battle tested when you get on the floor against a team that possibly can handle you in that way. So that's really what I look to see in each practice every day, that we get after it. So I mean, are there days where we don't have that? Yeah, I'm sure, of course there are. I mean, this is a high school girls team. Like they're not scholarship kids. This is something they do because they love it. So do you have days where you don't? But for the most part, those days when we get after it like that, that's what I look for.
You mentioned one of your assistants. I want to give you that chance to just shout out the other big names in this program too that help make it what it is and are going to help it make it go this year.
As far as coaching staff, well, of course, Eric Marino has been my assistant numerous times. My first coaching job at Niles feels like it was 100 years ago. He was my assistant. My wife, she sets the tone for us. She's the one that keeps me kind of in line. Refs love her because she yells at me more than anybody and tells me to, like, stop talking. Can you shut up? Like, coach your kids. Stop yelling at the officials. Like, she keeps me so, keeps me so in place. It's kind of funny. One of our kids misinterpreted a conversation the other day. Like, she was subbing in a couple kids for us, and I was talking to my wife, and she thought I was talking to her, and I had to tell her, like, listen, yeah, this has nothing to do with you. This is a conversation between me and my wife. So don't think that anything that we are saying has anything to do with you or your playing time or any of that. This is just us battling between who we should be in a rotation with and who we're not. And that, she keeps it level-headed for me. And then Bill Lewis come on to help us out. He had been a junior high coach at Lakeview, pretty good on the offense that I want to run this year, just trying to change up things a little bit to give us a little more spacing. And he's been huge helping us figure out some of the nuances to it to make it a little more effortless for us. And then the rest of our staff, 7th, 8th grade coaches, Ryan France does a great job. Brooke DeJulia, we have some good classes down there. And it's just as important for them to have a good program as it is for us. Those kids are coming up. I want that immediate impact from 8th grade to 9th grade. You're only 3 months away from being a high school basketball player when you're in 8th grade. And that's the way I always look at it. You play your season and now you're mine. So you got to be ready to make that run.
Coach, my final question for you too, and I've loved and enjoyed talking with you too. I always do it. So it's going to be a fun season. I'm excited for it. But my last question for you, it's a theme question, and it's one I'm asking all the coaches I get an opportunity to chat with this season. And it goes, what and beyond the sport of basketball, what moment made you realize this job was more than just basketball?
What one moment that was more than just basketball?
Moment or time, yes.
So I would think it was in my first year, and and at that time, you're just getting your feet wet in the program, and Ava Darney, who, God bless her, she was a wonderful leader, for a new coach to come in, and I could see the pull that our leadership, that our kids had on younger kids, and she was the start of it. Like I said, each year, each senior has gotten better. And I think because she set the standard for it. And that, to me, is kind of what separates the basketball part with the kid part. Like, they take more ownership of what we do because of what the tone that those kids, our seniors, set. And I think for me, that makes it more than basketball. Like, I want to win for them. I'm breaking down film on other teams for them. I don't care. I played my days. Those days are far from, those are way over. It's about trying to teach kids, if they're going to lead at some point, how to do that. And I think that is the most important part to me, not basketball related. So theme-wise, the leadership roles is a huge part of what we do.
The impact you coaches have stretches beyond the game too, and I always just love to hear those stories. Coach, I'm so excited for this season too. I know you guys have a lot of expectations. There's a lot of excitement surrounding the community too. They can't wait to see you and the girls back in the gym, and with a little bit of luck too, and a whole lot of skill that you guys have too. I know you're going to have quite the season. Best of luck on the hardwood this year, Coach, and we'll be seeing you out there real soon.
Thank you so much.